Think of the earth, but not as you see it. Not the soil, not the mountains, not the surface you walk on. Think deeper. Descend with your mind layer by layer. Roots, stones, moisture, density, and keep going. The light begins to fade until there is no more light, and yet something remains. You cannot see it, but it's still there, the very core. Science tells us that the very core is iron, nickel, and it's a heat almost like the heat of the sun. It is an invisible motion that births what? It births fields and forces. And yet no one has ever been there. No one has ever seen it. We only understand its existence through vibration, through traces, through its shadows, its traces. It is as if we are listening to something that exists there without being able to touch it. Now think of a plant. You see it from above, you see it in the light, you see the flowers, the leaves, but it did not begin there. It was once a seed that was hidden in the darkness and cracked there, deep within the earth, merged with it, and began its ascent. But its roots don't stop where you think they stop. They actually go deeper. They connect beneath to layers that we don't even understand. Now let's leave the earth and let's go to the universe. Think of the universe. Everything we see, stars, lights, movements, is surface. It is a manifestation of something. But beneath, what lies beneath that? Heraclitus says, "The limits of the soul you shall not find, no matter how far you travel, no matter which path you take. It has a deep structure. It has a deep logos." And the other thing he says, connections, wholes and not wholes, agreement and disagreement, harmony and discord, from all things one, and from one all things. Everything is connected. Let's look at all of this again. So we have the plant, the earth, the roots, the layers, and the core. Everything is bound in a unity that it is not immediately apparent, and yet you stand at the very surface of things thinking that this is all there is. And we have the same thing applying to us. We have a depth within us that we cannot see, yet it determines everything. And this depth is what the ancients called Nyx, the first descent, daughter of chaos. Nyx is born out of chaos. Not as a result, not as a construction, she emerges. And this matters because here we do not have Genesis in the way we usually imagine Genesis. There is no union, there is no intention, there is no plan. There is only one opening, and through it something appears. Nyx is not made. She appears just as depth appears when a void opens. So, if chaos is the opening, Nyx is what gives this opening its content, not form, at least not yet, but density, a mystery, a direction towards the invisible. And somewhere here, she begins to merge with yeah. And yeah is weight, she's the surface, she's that which you can stand upon. Nyx is not that. She's not a structure, not a support. She is not something that you can grasp. She's the hidden dimension of reality, the place that exists without being seen. If you look at the universe today, with all the tools we possess, you would expect that as knowledge advances, the unknown would shrink, but the opposite is happening. Scientists speak of dark matter, of dark energy, not because They are dark, but because we cannot see them, we perceive them only by their effect, the way the stars move, by how they hold galactic structures together. And then you start suspecting something, that what is visible is the smallest part. The reality rests upon something that does not reveal itself directly.
Αρμονίη αφανής φανερής κρήτων. An invisible harmony is stronger than a visible one. Heraclitus. Hence, Heraclitus also claimed that for the souls it is either a delight or death to become wet. For them, delight is the fall into Genesis, the world of becoming, and yet elsewhere he states, we live their death and they live our death. This is a commentary on Heraclitus from Porphyry. What does it truly mean? For Heraclitus, the soul in its pure state is fire, energy. When a soul becomes wet, it grows heavy. The moisture signifies the fall into Genesis, the incarnation into the body, into yeah. It is a delight because the soul wants this experience of matter. It is death because the soul loses its spiritual freedom and becomes imprisoned within the senses. And here we have the great paradox. When we are born here into yeah, the light of the day, so to speak, our soul dies in relation to the spiritual realm. When we die, when we return to Nyx, the soul is resurrected and lives its own true life. This reveals what? That the world of the senses is an exchange of life between two levels of existence. Nyx acts as the mirror of reality. When the body sleeps in the night, the soul awakens. When the body is awake during the day, the soul sleeps. Night is the space where this change of guard takes place. It is the point where the soul recovers its strength, comes into contact with dreams, the children of Nyx, and prepares either for a new day in yeah or for the final return to the invisible. Nothing is ever lost. Night is, if you will, the warehouse, the repository where life and all the information of our soul are kept while we are occupied with the business of being human. It is the aphanis harmonia, the invisible harmony we spoke of before. The soul lives exactly where we perceive only darkness. Consider the following excerpt by physicist Michio Kaku from his book Parallel Worlds. In this specific chapter, Kaku explains in a great way the string theory and the concept of multiple dimensions. It is almost magical how Kaku, in his attempt to popularize advanced physics, essentially returns to Plato's allegory of the cave and to Heraclitus. Just as Plato said that we see only the shadows of ideas upon the cave walls, so Kaku tells us that our three-dimensional world, our yeah, is the shadow of a higher 11-dimensional reality. String theory maintains that all particles in the universe are nothing but notes produced by the vibration of tiny infinite strings. This is the ultimate scientific validation of Heraclitus's invisible harmony. The music, the harmony, is invisible, but the notes, the matter, the reality they create are visible. He tells us that what we experience in the three dimensions of yeah is perhaps a shadow of our real self, which moves in 11 dimensions. If we translate Kaku's thought into our own context, night is the hyperspace of the 11 dimensions. It is the field where information is complete, where the day, our three-dimensional world, is a simplified limited projection, or perhaps the opposite. That which we consider day here, perhaps for there, it is the deepest midnight. The shadow of reality, Michio, Kaku, and the 11 dimensions. Perhaps our familiar three-dimensional space of experiences is merely a shadow of the real world, which, in essence, is 10-dimensional or 11-dimensional. This means that when we move through the three dimensions of space, we are actually experiencing a movement in 10 or 11 dimensions. Walking down the street, we can see our shadow following us everywhere, moving exactly as we do, with the only difference being that our shadow exists in 2 dimensions. In a similar way, we ourselves might be nothing more than shadows moving in 3 dimensions, while our real self moves in 10 or 11 dimensions.
And this is how we must see Nyx, not as darkness in the simplest sense, but as the sum of the unknown parameters of existence, that which is not seen yet determines, that which is not touched yet directs, that which is not defined but contains. And here's the strangest part. Nyx is not empty, she's full of everything you cannot see. Think of it differently. It is not that there is light and somewhere else there is darkness. It is that within the darkness, light begins to distinguish itself. And this changes everything, because then Nyx is not the opposite of creation. She is the very precondition of creation. The children of night, the psychology of the universe. And then we have something else. Nyx gives birth, but not as Gaia does. We don't have forms here, we don't have bodies, we do not have worlds that we can stand on and that are seen. She births states of being, without any union, without any contact, without eros, from within her, like something overflowing from depths. And what she births is not beautiful. They are not easy things, they have no shape, they are aschematic. Aschimon in Greek means without a shape, it means ugly. So something ugly is still formless.
A small intervention here. We must understand that we are speaking of the absolute beginning. We are at the dawn of cosmogony, before Eros, before the great forces that would lead later to the Titanomachy, long before the order of Zeus. Imagine a universe just being born, or imagine a new galaxy swirling in the darkness. This galaxy does not yet possess laws or shape. It is pure force and energy. It must first pass through these invisible amorphous forces. It must experience the unformed, the aschimon, in order to be led later toward order. These children of the Nyx are the first software of this galaxy.
Like shadows you cannot hold, like sensations that come and hit you, but you cannot point at them. What do we have from Nyx? We have Moros, which is the non-negotiable limit, Kyr, which is the violent rupture of life. We have death and sleep. We have dreams, which blur the line between form and formlessness. We have Momos, which is the shadow of irony. We have the Mire, we have the Fates, which is the very invisible thread that pulls you. And then we have Nemesis, Deceit, Strife, and Old Age. So look at them. These are not objects, they are not forms, they are experiences that find you. You do not choose them, they, they permeate you. And here something very subtle begins to emerge. The ancients are not speaking of a world made out of matter. They speak of a world where, before form even appears, an internal landscape already exists. It is a field of experience. And within this darkness, with all these things that seem heavy, hard, unshaped, something appears that you do not expect. Philotes, intimacy, connection. It is an attraction that comes very silently. She is born with all the other elements. Pause here for a moment and think about it. What do we have here? We have Philotes. Philotes is translated as love, but it's not love exactly as we understand it. But I'm not going to go into this for the time being. Let's call it love. Love is not born in the light, it is born within the night. We don't have a contradiction here, it is an indication that what you fear is not separate from what unites you. That the very same depth that births fear also births proximity. Nyx is neither good or bad, she has no morality, she is totality. She contains what the mind refuses to see, pain, decay, the end, but also what keeps the mind alive, dreams, rest, connection, etc. If we were to use a modern language, she's like the very unconscious of the universe, not just personal, cosmic unconscious. Nyx and the structure of reality. So let's see this again. The children of Nyx are not objects, they are something that you cannot touch, you cannot measure it, but you can live it. We have death, sleep, strife, deceit, fate. These are not things that exist out there, these are the ways in which you experience existence. And here we have something radical. Before, gives us form, gives us the world, Nyx is already there giving the experience. Before there is a body, there is a lived experience. Before there is an object, there is some kind of a relationship with it. So what are they trying to tell us here? That reality does not begin with matter, it begins with how it is felt. If is the very body of the world, Nyx is its soul. And if you bring this to the present day, Nyx resembles the field where experience emerges, the point where something becomes a lived moment, not just a fact. And maybe this is the hardest thing to accept, that the most real part of reality is not what you see, it is what permeates you without being seen. If you stand with what Nyx births, you begin to see a common thread. They have no form, they do not stand before you like an object. You cannot point your finger at them, they are like shadows. Not shadows cast by something bright, but shadows without a source. What is fear? You do not see it, yet it moves you. What is agony? It has no shape, but it grips you tighter than anything else. And what is death before it happens? It is something that you know it exists, but it has no form. Here, Nyx is something else. Not just a cosmic principle, she is experience itself. And maybe it is the very first point where humans come face to face with something they cannot control, because whatever has a form, you can grasp, you can understand, you can define it, you can categorize it, but this cannot be defined. And so we all do something very human. We avoid it, we push it to the margins, we call it darkness, and we leave it there. But Nyx does not leave, she remains, and she works from within. Think about it. Sleep takes you when you stop controlling. Dreams come without being called. Grief appears without permission, it just shows up, something inside you. Conflict is born before you even think about it. None of these things come from light, they all come from the night. And here's the crucial point. If you see all of this in fragments, they will seem threatening. If you see them all together, something begins to take shape, a totality. The shadow is not just what you fear, it is the part of you that is not yet integrated. And then everything changes. It is not that Nyx brings negative things, she births the totality of everything within you that has not been seen yet, and it has not taken form. Now, with all this shapelessness, with all this unformed mass, something else comes, something else appears, and this is something that comes almost unnoticed. It is an attraction and a tendency toward something that unites everything. It is not intense, it's not explosive, it is quiet, and this is exactly where Philotes appears. Philotes and Neikos. Now we move into something deeper, to Empedocles. Empedocles no longer talks about Genesis. He looks at the cycle, he looks at the already formed universe. In Hesiod, Philotes exists, but her role is limited. She does not stand at the center. And why is that? Because she is unimportant yet, because the world has not yet been stabilized. We are in the very midst of Genesis. Everything is emerging, everything is appearing for the first time. Nyx gives birth, Gaia establishes the foundation, Uranos spreads out, so we still don't have a balance here. There is an expansion, an explosion, so to speak. Philotes, at the point, cannot function as a principle that organizes everything. She is present, but she is there, silent. Something that exists within the night, but it is not yet a governing force. In Empedocles, everything changes. Here, something else happens. Nothing simply appears, everything moves, everything joins and separates. And this happens again and again and again within this motion where two forces emerge. We have Philotes and Neikos, love and strife. Philotes and Neikos become the cosmic forces that are equal to the elements, not as emotions, as principles of the world. We have earth, air, fire, water, and with them, connection and conflict. At one end of the cycle, everything unites. We have harmony prevailing. We have Philotes. It is the kingdom of Philotes, so to speak. Philotes connects. She does not pressure, she does not clash, she brings things together. She makes them one. At the other end, we have Neikos, which divides, it dissolves, it shatters, and it distances things. And everything is separated. And dissolution spreads, and Neikos prevails. And the whole universe oscillates between these two eternally. The universe belongs to neither. It moves between them. And between these two, the world as we know it is born. In Hesiod, we see the beginning. In Empedocles, we actually see the operation. So from this perspective, Philotes plays the role of Eros. But Philotes is not Eros. There is a difference. Eros is the movement toward union. It is the pull, the drive toward the other, where Philotes is the state of union. It is what remains once the union has occurred. So Eros is the momentum and Philotes is the result. Eros moves you and Philotes holds you. And yet both are not born in the light, they are born from the night, from the place where the separate has not yet been defined. From that place where the one becomes the all. Cosmic fear, why even Zeus hesitates. In the myth, Zeus fears almost nothing, but he respects Nyx. Why? Because Nyx represents limits that even the supreme cosmic force cannot overstep. It is like it is the very unconscious of the universe. You can govern the heavens, you can shape laws, the laws of motions of the universe, but all these things that come out from Nyx, you cannot control. She's the very limit of control. So, in modern terms, I don't know, we could call it entropy. Nyx is uncertainty. Nyx is the very unknown. It's the very depth. Even the most advanced physics stop right there. Nyx as the cosmic womb. So this modern misunderstanding that darkness is the enemy of light, it is not. Darkness is what allows light to exist. Without Nyx, light would have no contrast. It would have no meaning. It could not appear. Nyx is the womb of Genesis. In the word Nyx, the ancient lexicographer of Etymologicum Magnum gives us a map that connects the physical state of the world to the movement of the soul. Everything is born in the dark. The embryo in the womb, the seed in the soil, the idea in the unconscious, and creation does not begin in the light, it begins in the night. The etymology of the sting. The word Nyx isn't just darkness, it is linked to a state, nigma, the sting. Derived from the verb niso, to prick, to pierce. Night is that which pricks us towards sleep. It nudges us gently, reminding the body to close its eyes. It is a covering, a veiling, not an absence, but a shroud. It is also called so because one pricks or stumbles while walking in the dark, where sight is no longer a guide. And right here in the lexicon, immediately following, we find what? We find Dionysus Nyctelius. There's no accident here. Darkness is no longer fear, it becomes a process. Dionysus is not a god of light, he does not reveal with clarity, he dissolves. And his mysteries take place in the night. Not because you cannot see, but because you have to let go. And he's called Nyctelius because the whole worship is performed en nykti, at night. The Existential Bridge. Nyx is not just the unknown, it is the very field of boundaries that can be loosened. Think about it. By day you can define, you distinguish, you say this is who I am. By night, by night, you begin to lose yourself. And that's where Dionysus enters. Not to show you something, but to pull you out of your form. Nyx covers and Dionysus releases. Nyx hides and Dionysus dissolves. So suddenly the shadow takes on a new dimension. It is not just fear, it becomes passage. Because within the shadow, if you are in the shadow, you cannot see clearly. But you can also, there is a potential there to become something else.
Noogony, the birth of the cosmic mind. Hesiod isn't telling fairy tales to put children to sleep. He is composing a cosmogony, which in reality is an noogony, the birth of the nous, of the mind. If the universe begins with chaos, the opening, and Nyx, the unconscious potentiality, and Eros is the very impulse, then what he is describing is the birth of consciousness. We are not on earth within a soulless universe, we are within the thoughts of a mind. If the world is a mind, then we are its thoughts. We are the point where this mind acquires self-awareness. Just as within your own dream that there are characters who think they are autonomous but are in fact you, so it is in the cosmic mind. We are its sensors. Every time a human is born, the universal mind opens a new terminal. It begins again from the night, the darkness of the womb, carrying all the primordial information, the children of Nyx, and waits for Eros to begin philosophizing. Shall we dare to transfer this entire cosmogony, this noogony, into an infant? Why not? Think about it. A sleeping baby is the absolute night, Nyx. Within it exist all the possibilities of the world, like the Orphic egg. Everything is there. The future man or woman, the logos, the action, the fear, the anxiety, distraction, creation. But at this moment, nothing has been manifested. It is potential before it becomes act. Just as Nyx contains the before of the gods, the infant contains the before of the personality. It has no ego yet, no noise, no face, it just breathes. And then slowly Eros arrives. What is Eros for the infant? It is the first hunger, the first need to touch something, to smell, to see. It is the first moment it opens his eyes and beholds the world. This is the first miracle. It is, in other words, an existence that has no shape yet, and Eros is that first impulse that forces the infant universe to open its eyes. The infant is not a blank state. It is a dense seed carrying with it all the archetypes, the entire heritage of the Nyx before it even utters its first word. Sleep and dreams are its permanent state. Its dreams are the raw material trying to take form. Momos, the blame, is the first sense of no, the first dissatisfaction, the cry when something is wrong, the first judgment, the first reaction to reality. Nemesis is the restoration of justice, the instinctive reaction to the injustice of deficiency. The infant's rage when balance is disturbed. The infant is a small Nyx carrying with it all the forces that will later rule its world. Everything is there, silent, waiting for Eros, the impulse to set everything in motion. The geometry of the portion, Moros and Moira. Now let's play with the words. Moros is the portion of life that ends. Moros, which is the moron in English, is the non-seeing one, he who has suffered a spiritual fate. In Greek, the word for baby is moron. This is not an insult to the infant, of course. It simply reflects its ontological state, full of potential but unfulfilled consciousness, just like Nyx. Moros and Myra, which is fate, are connected, derived from the verb myrome, to receive one's portion. Moros immobilizes the spirit, Moria, folly, immobilizes the mind. It is the state where man does not move the mind. It is the state where man does not move forward, does not function as a whole. He has submerged into lethe, into oblivion, and when you are in oblivion, you will never find yourself in aletheia, which means truth. The common point here is blindness. Death, moros, is the blindness of the senses. Folly, moria, is the blindness of consciousness. So from the root miro, meaning to divide or partition into pieces, comes another word, the morion, which means particle, molecule. We are particles, moria, of the universal mind, and it is in our hands to either function in harmony with the rest of the system or to function as destructive cells. Everything revolves around the measure and the portion. Fate is not something abstract, it is the geometry of our existence. And the purpose, entelechy. Entelechy is one of those words that, once unlocked, changes the way you look at everything alive around you. It is a term coined by Aristotle, meaning to have one's purpose within oneself. En telos and echin. Imagine it like this. An acorn is not just a piece of wood, it carries with it the entelechy of the oak tree. This means it already possesses the complete blueprint, the power and the destiny to become that tree. The baby we've been talking about is not just a mass of cells. Its entelechy is the fully realized conscious human being. Entelechy is the transition from potentiality, dynamis, what you can become, to actuality, energia, what you already are in practice. It is the inner pulse of nature that allows nothing to remain static. Everything runs, they, to fulfill its purpose. When we say then that man is an upgradable terminal, we mean that our entelechy is the full awakening of the mind, of consciousness. You do not become something foreign, you become what you were always destined to be, which was hidden in the night of probability. Dionysus shows you exactly this. You are not what you think you are a terminal. And terminals, they get upgraded.
So how does this work with Philotes? Philotes is from philia. Philia means friendship. Filter comes from philia, the word filter. So it is the very process of being able to filter. And in order to filter something, you need to be able to see it. So you need to go in the dark and see what is there so that you can filter it. Only when the boundary of the ego goes, loosens, relaxes, only then there can be true union. So that's why Nyx is the precondition of Philotes. And that's why Dionysus is the way. Dionysus Nyctelius does not save you from your sins. He delivers you from the very prison of being something specific, something that you think you are. We have the impression that, we are all children of light or whatever. If you don't see your darkness, if you do not see this depth inside you, if you do not explore it, How can you find the light? Modern religions tend to see the darkness as something that you shouldn't go there. Darkness is a prison. But in the night, darkness, it is just freedom from the schematic. It is a return to the indivisible unity. It returns you to the womb, where you have to deal with yourself. You have to see everything you are. How can you go towards the light if you don't see your darkness? And this is basically hidden in the psychology of Carl Jung. So, to put it in Carl Jung's terms, what we do not make conscious emerges as our fate. Religion is a defense against the experience of God. That is, if you use it as an excuse. Depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't send her away, invite her in, give her a seat, and listen to what she has to say. Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious. So this final phrase is the etymological analysis of Nyctelius. Dionysus does not bring you an external sun. He forces you to become the light that recognizes its own darkness. Modern society tends to see darkness as something that you should avoid. Why? Because it is a defense. Because you avoid to look within you properly. If you start looking within you properly, with clear eyes, then you start dissolving this fake persona, this fake ego that you have manufactured for yourself. It shatters it. It shatters the form, it shatters the guilt, and then you can reorganize yourself in a much more healthier way. We are all children of the Nyx. Every time you sleep, you return to Nyx. Every dream you see is her language. Every fear you feel is Nyx's shadow, and every moment of intimacy is again her gift. You are not only a being of of matter and form, you are also a being of Nyx, of the depth, of the mystery, of the unseen. And before you were even born, you existed in the darkness. And when your story ends, you will return to it. But this is not an end. It is a return to the source to complete this whole circle again. Nyx is not the absence of life. She's the place where life waits to begin again. Eros, the force that breaks the night. So we have seen chaos, the opening, we have seen the foundation, we have seen Nyx, which is the depth, but nothing moves yet, nothing is connected, nothing is. So in the next video, we will discuss Eros. Eros is the force that dares to move through darkness. It is the force that becomes Dionysus Nyctelius, the drive that unites everything that Nyx gives birth to. So the night is not the end of the road, it is the road that leads to Eros. Without the depth of the night, Eros would be some superficial attraction only. Through the night, Eros becomes the very force that resurrects the whole world. Because without Eros, the night would be eternal.